does have features of Down syndrome. Confirmation basically because of Down syndrome,
In January 2020, my wife Jill gave birth to our daughter Selah, who was born with Down syndrome. We called her Selah because the Hebrew meaning of the name demands that we pause and reflect on the goodness of God. At the time of her birth, I was going through a particularly dark moment in my life. So dark, in fact, that I often contemplated the worthwhileness of life. But from the moment I heard her cry and held her in my arms, I felt a divine invitation to pause and reflect on this new gift of life. Moving forward for me would mean coming to terms with my daughter's disability while managing my mental illness in my new role as a Black father. It was immediately obvious that I needed to find people like me. People who understood life at that complicated intersection of disability, mental illness, and Blackness. So I set out on this journey, clear enough about what I wanted, but unsure what I would discover. And what a journey it has been. From London, Ontario to Nova Scotia to British Columbia and several places in between, I have discovered a village of Black caregivers like me. Through tears and laughter and long pauses in conversation, we exchanged stories that only served to deepen the new bonds we had formed. Now, it's hard to summarize what I've learned on this journey, but three main themes stand out. The first is that we are all created equal and should be treated as such. On this journey, I've met caregivers and their loved ones who share the very same hopes and dreams most people have. To be holistically healthy, to prosper in life, and to see dreams come true. Yet for some people, living life is complicated by systemic barriers that are simply dehumanizing. Earlier this year, my wife and I were reminded of this reality as we tried to find a daycare provider for our daughter. Now, finding daycare is a struggle as it is. For parents with children with disabilities, there's an extra complexity to the whole process. At first, we were advised that there was a spot for her, and after a tour of the place, we liked it and applied. However, only days later, we were advised that Selah could not take up the available spot because of her disability. Many caregivers with whom I spoke shared versions of this incident and noted that concern for the well-being of our loved ones should be a priority and not an inconveniencing afterthought. After all, we are all created equal. I'm a Black man struggling with clinical depression. The second theme is that there is a crisis in Black mental health, and we need to acknowledge it. The conversations I had about mental health featured acknowledgement of some level of crisis in our collective mental health as Black caregivers. Invariably, I also learned that this crisis is something of an elephant in the Black room. Good evening, thank you. From my own experience on this journey, it's clear to me that the best way forward is by first acknowledging that there is a crisis in our mental health. Thankfully, there are professionals in our community who can help us through this process. I've had the privilege of meeting some of them. Finally, I've been reminded that Black is beautiful. While in Nova Scotia, in one of Canada's oldest Black settlements, the Gibson family walked me through a graveyard in their community. When I noticed that one woman had died in 1888, I shared with the group that she died just 4 years after the partition of Africa. This is when white European men drew imaginary border lines to break up the continent. As we exchanged reflections on the enslavement and colonization of our people, I was reminded that Black people's contributions to life make this world more beautiful, notwithstanding the oppression often inflicted on us. Heading back to the airport right now from Nova Scotia back to London, Ontario. Being in Nova Scotia and being welcomed into people's homes, I somewhat felt at home because of the depth of connection that we felt with each other, both because we have similar experiences of being Black, but also living with the reality of a loved one born with or living with an exceptionality. So I feel like I belong in a deeper way. It's heartwarming. It's heartwarming to belong. This is the beautiful world, a village that I had discovered of people like me, caring for loved ones, living with exceptionalities. As I conclude this journey, it only feels like the beginning of something special. So I look forward to reconnecting with the people I've met from coast to coast, and to introducing my daughter to this village I've discovered, and for her to experience Ubuntu. I am because we are.